I've tried everything and nothing works. We hear this constantly. Someone has feeders up, a bird bath installed, a few shrubs in the ground. And the garden is still empty, or worse, it is full of pigeons and crows. And the small birds they actually wanted to see have quietly disappeared. Before you give up entirely, and please don't, one reader told us she'd removed all her feeders after 4 fruitless months, only to discover that her neighbor's garden had exploded with birds in the same period. It is worth diagnosing what is actually going wrong in our experience at backyard bird signals. There are 4 problems that explain the vast majority of failed bird gardens. Here is how to fix them. Problem 1. Your garden doesn't feel safe. Birds are not hungry first and cautious second. They are cautious first, always. A feeding station surrounded by open ground, positioned near a fence that cats use as a patrol route, in a garden with no shrubby cover to retreat into, will be ignored, no matter how good the food is. Small birds have survived for millions of years by being paranoid, and they are very good at reading a landscape for threat. The first thing to do in any garden you're trying to make more bird-friendly is to walk it from the perspective of a blue tit or a robin. Where would a cat or sparrowhawk come from? And where is there nowhere to escape to? Thorny shrubs, pyracantha, hawthorn, berberis, are the single best investment you can make, because they simultaneously offer food, berries, nesting habitat, and physical protection from predators. A sparrowhawk will not pursue prey into a dense hawthorn thicket. It simply can't. Dense, layered planting is your bird garden security system. Nest boxes work on the same principle, so install one now in autumn. Even though nesting season is months away, wrens, blue tits, and other small species use enclosed boxes for overnight roosting in winter, packing into a single box for shared warmth. When temperatures drop sharply, a well-placed box in autumn becomes a known, trusted site by spring. Position it above head height, out of the arc of any prevailing wind and rain, and ideally with a clear flight path rather than a complicated obstacle course of branches. Avoid south or southwest-facing placements. The interior can overheat in spring and summer, which is fatal to eggs and chicks. The cat question is real and worth taking seriously. If your neighborhood has roaming cats, feral or domestic, motion-activated sprinklers along fence lines are one of the more effective and humane deterrents available. Baffles on feeder poles, a smooth, wide disc or cone that cats can't grip past, protect ground-level feeding. Birds will eventually return to a garden that feels safe. They won't visit one that doesn't, regardless of what is on offer. Problem 2. You're feeding the wrong birds and possibly attracting rats. A flat bird table piled with mixed seed is an open invitation to every pigeon, crow, and wood pigeon in the postcode. They arrive, they dominate, and your target birds stay away. The tits, finches, sparrows, and robins simply stay away. Larger species are both intimidating and physically monopolize the space. Every grain that hits the ground below creates conditions for rats. These rats need to establish a feeding site. It is a solvable problem. It requires choosing the right type of feeder rather than buying food. Wire mesh cage feeders, with small apertures, physically exclude large birds. They remain accessible to smaller species, and they work immediately. If you're dealing with a pigeon or crow dominance problem, right now, this is your fastest fix for the mess. Fat balls and suet cakes outperform loose seed during autumn and winter. They are calorie-dense, exactly what robins and blue tits need. They burn energy to stay warm, and they don't scatter debris. Shelled sunflower seeds are another excellent choice with no mess. Mealworms, either live or dried, will bring robins within days. They are worth the slight extra cost for a close relationship. One subscriber told us a robin met her at the door within 3 weeks of starting daily mealworm offerings. That kind of habituation takes consistency. It is not just luck. If you've had a rat problem, consider starting with a pole. A pole-mounted metal feeder is the best way to go. Rats can't chew through metal, and a catch tray helps. Feed in the morning only, and remove uneaten food by evening. Rats are nocturnal. This simple schedule removes most of the risk. One last note, squirrels are a pain but manageable with metal. A metal cage on a smooth pole with a baffle works. Plastic feeders will be chewed through, so buy metal once. There is a mismatch that catches a lot of gardeners out. They plant for summer when everything is in bloom. But the ecological crunch for garden birds happens in winter. When natural food is scarce and survival, margins are thin. If your planting schedule peaks in June, it is not helping birds. The plants that matter most are those that hold berries. Hawthorn is a native powerhouse that provides dense nesting cover. It has early blossoms that support insects in the spring, and heavy crops of dark red berries for the winter. Blackbirds, fieldfares, and redwings rely on these in the cold. It can be grown as a standalone tree, or clipped into a hedge. That doubles as a garden boundary, like any other chore. Cotoneaster in creeping or arching forms produces small, abundant berries. At exactly the scale that smaller birds, sparrows, dunnocks, wrens, can handle efficiently. Roses, not the hybrid tea varieties, but the older species types and dog roses, produce fat red hips that blackbirds go after enthusiastically as they soften through autumn. Holly is worth growing, but comes with a widely misunderstood catch. Only female plants berry. Male plants do not, and many gardeners have a male holly that looks healthy and produces nothing. If this is you, either add a female plant nearby or swap the existing one for a self-fertile variety. The berries on a productive female holly, coming as they do in deep winter, when almost everything else has been stripped, are genuinely important for thrushes and blackbirds. For those with limited space, a small courtyard, a balcony, or a window box, the options narrow, but they don't disappear entirely. A compact pyracantha trained flat against a wall takes almost no footprint, while providing both berries and nesting potential, which is the bare minimum. A terracotta pot with ivy, trained up a trellis, gives roosting cover even in a tiny space. Don't let the constraint of a small garden become a reason to do nothing. Problem 4. Your water source is doing more harm than good. Stagnant. Dirty water in an unclean bird bath is worse than no water at all. It can spread avian diseases like trichomoniasis, which has been linked to significant declines. In greenfinch populations across the UK, this is not a minor maintenance issue. It is a genuine health risk to the birds you're trying to help. The fix is simple. Treat your bird bath like you'd treat a pet's water bowl. Tip it out, scrub it briefly, and refill it fresh every morning. In the time it takes to make a cup of tea, you've done it. A bird bath that is kept clean will have traffic within days. One that is left to go green and cloudy will be abandoned. For the bath itself, depth matters, as small birds like wrens, finches, and sparrows need shallow water of around 2 to 3 centimeters. A deep bird bath is functionally inaccessible to them, so add a layer of flat stones to create a graduated depth so birds of all sizes can find their comfortable level. As a bonus, bees and other pollinators use the shallow edges for drinking, something multiple readers have noticed and appreciated. If you care about that sort of thing, if you want to take your water provision up a level, consider adding a gentle dripper or a small recirculating pump, as research into bird sensory behavior consistently shows that the visual ripple and sound of moving water draws birds more reliably than still water, particularly for species like warblers and thrushes that wouldn't normally visit a standard bird table. A small solar-powered pump costs very little and runs itself. In winter, a floating rubber ball in the bath disrupts ice formation. On all but the coldest nights, it keeps water accessible when birds need it most. The question of dependency, a concern that comes up regularly. Will birds become so reliant on garden feeding that they lose the ability to fend for themselves? The short answer is no, not if you're also planting for food and allowing some wildness in the garden. Birds that use feeders simultaneously forage across their full territory. They are not abandoning their natural behavior, they're adding a resource to it. In the same way that many wild bird populations have always exploited unusual food bonanzas when they appear. Where dependency becomes a real concern is if you start feeding, establish a reliable routine that birds come to count on, and then suddenly stop midwinter. If you're going to feed, commit to feeding consistently through the cold months. The obligation is light, a few minutes a day. But it is real. It takes longer than you think. The most important thing to understand is that birds don't discover and commit to a new garden in a week. They survey, return cautiously, survey again, and slowly incorporate a new location into their mental map of their territory. A viewer here in our community spent an entire autumn with everything set up correctly and saw almost nothing. She nearly dismantled the whole setup. Instead, she waited. The first robin appeared in January. By March she had a pair of blue tits inspecting the nest box daily. By May she had chicks. Set it up right. Be consistent. And then, the hardest part, be patient. Follow backyard bird signals for practical, honest guidance on building a garden that genuinely works for wildlife. Every season of the year.